Hello beloveds, my name is Evonne from Embody Mother and welcome to the Cycle Report for the 16th of May 2019. I come to you from the Dja Dja Wurrung country in the Central Highlands, Victoria, Australia in the Southern Hemisphere. So we are a week and a half, almost 2 weeks away from Samhain, which was Halloween here in the Southern Hemisphere. And Samhain marks the midway point between autumn equinox and winter solstice, which is the longest nighttime hours of the year. So with Samhain or Halloween, it represents the death, decay, the letting go. It's the third and final harvest of, looking and having deep appreciation of what this year has brought you. It's about the ancestors, and it's the point where we are at where the veils are the thinnest between us and the ancestors. So we feel them coming close, and it's a really good time to really honour them. I was really reminded this week of our non-human ancestors. So Christina Pratt from Why Shamanism Now podcast talks about how we are all from shamanic ancestors, and the shamanic cultures believed that there was a more than human ancestors to us. So she speaks about the creation story, about how, from nothing dreamt, the elements, so the water and the fire, and how the water the ice as it would melt from the fire would start to put out the fire of the sun. And then as the fire started to diminish, the water would turn to ice again, and the fire would come up, and here started this dance of fire and water. And from them, they dreamt the earth and the air. And from that, it really hit home this week too about, this ancestral lineage that we have with the non-human and the elements, and how very much the trees and everything that we have around us is our ancestors. It's really saddened me how our culture treats this part of ourselves, and, just not that far away from here now forgive me if I get this incorrect, but Dja Dja Wurrung country, just near Beaufort, just in central western Victoria. There's people camping there to protect 800-year-old birthing trees, indigenous birthing trees, where the women used to go and birth in these beautiful trees. And our Victorian government wants to cut them down and make a road. I feel really speechless, because it's how as a culture have we got to this point that we are so disrespectful and disconnected from, how, it's actually a part of us. Yeah. So that's been a big part of my week, and honouring the elements, and how important it is to have this connection and, feel connected, because when we do, we become like the trees, the trees and the animals and all the elements and what comes from the elements, which is us included. And when we really drop into and connect back to that, we feel that oneness that they have, the one that they can just grow anyway, it doesn't matter. It's all beautiful, and it's all a part of the grand plan of who they are, and they don't give a shit. They are unapologetic here, doing what they do, connected to all. And I really hope as a human culture that we too one day, and I know it's happening, I really do, and there's so many people out there who are doing amazing work to redevelop this relationship that we have with our non-human ancestors. So I just hope there's more to come, and I know there is, but it's sometimes hard to not lose heart when you hear things like that happening. I'm reminded of the election we have in Australia. We have an election coming up. So really come into that election, if you haven't voted already, with a really open, conscious heart, and really know who you're voting for and what their policies are. This is the chance for the people to speak up and to say, who do we actually want to lead our country into this new way? Because the way it is, we're going to not leave a very good environment for our children and our children's children and our children's children to come. So remember that we are two ancestors, and what are we leaving for who's to come through and what's to come through. The moon cycle is, we are coming into a full moon, which is on Sunday. So at the moment it is a waxing gibbous moon. So it's sort of, it looks like a bit of an egg shape. And that's, that's a clue to actually what's happening at the moment. So we're seeing, the dreams that we've had from, and the seedings that we had from this new moon, which was 2 weeks ago, just before Samhain, which was on the 4th of May, I believe. I can't remember. I think it might have been the 5th. It was the 5th of May. And, having to think about back then, what was happening in your life and what were you thinking, and this is the time to really start to see the fruition of all this, the fertility is coming through. And it will be all fully illuminated coming into this full moon. So really take note as to what's happening, because, it's good evidence, when we write this stuff down, that we can actually see it happening. It makes it a more embodied process of all the magic that happens. And also it's a good time to think about your full moon prayers, to come into the full moon with consciousness and intent. Because I think that's what we need to, as a culture, is have, this conscious intent of what we want to call through, and be very, very clear and short and sharp. As my teacher Jane Hardwicke Collings would say, it's not a shopping list. What do you want to bring into full illumination? So do that before Sunday. So maybe Saturday would be a good idea to do full moon prayers. For me, I am day 1, and I've experienced that as especially the last few days, I've started getting sick. I am really struggling energy-wise. I think I spoke a couple of weeks ago how under the dark moon and ovulating under the dark moon, I really felt the connection of bleeding on the last full moon and how intense that was for me. And now coming in, I can see the full circle and the full cycle of that wisdom coming through, that actually I really need to rest and I need to send my nourishment down. And what happened at this 2 weeks ago with the dark moon gathering on my ovulation, I've really felt in this descent of my body that I needed time to really integrate the whole cycle, because it's been such a big cycle with, the dark moon gathering, which was all about bringing up your shadow and intentionally going in it with, the awareness of, to have a look what's there, to look at the whole picture instead of just having a look at it, just a snippet, having a look at the shadows, which is the whole picture, to see what is there so we can, bring some new awareness and new dreams from that. And with Samhain, the intensity and the need to drop in and, send your roots down. I was reminded this morning by my beautiful friend Maria that, this is the time of deep nourishment. And when we send our roots down, it's going down to the ancestors, and so it's connecting back to them. So the time of deep nourishment and deep rest. And I was also reminded too about the decay and how important the decay is of this time of year, and how the decay, when it hits the ground, it turns into compost, and that provides the good nourishment for the seeds to come in the next cycle. There's so much there. I hope you followed that okay. But I think, if you're feeling your body starting to tire, and it's a time of lots of colds and stuff like that, so take the time to rest and rest your body so you can, show up, when you need, with full expression of yourself and fully ready, because we need to be on the, ready to go with our hearts open and bodies deeply nourished, so we can hold what is needing to come through. So From my heart to your heart, delicious ones, I send you deep, deep nourishment and so much love. Thank you for listening.